Hi, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of the PETHS Alumni Network podcast. I'm your host, Nathan, and today we are joined by none other than Vekaash Arulrasan. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Nathan.
Of course. Thank you so much for your time. So you're actually in a different time zone, so we appreciate you working out the logistics. You're in London, England. Yeah, I'm in London, Ontario, so bit of a connection there. But to give a bit of background on you, you went to Stonebridge. You're nominated by Nick Chang, who we had on the podcast recently. So in high school, you were on the soccer team, and we'll jump on to like further experiences later. You graduated in 2019. You then studied business at Western University, but then you actually finished your undergrad at York Kinesiology in 2023. And as I mentioned before, right now you're at Brunel University of London studying a master's of physiotherapy. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure I got that all right. But jumping straight into it, I mentioned before, big soccer guy. You're a key player on the soccer team. Do you have any other experiences that stand out for you from your years in high school?
Uh, Soccer was a big one in grade 12. That was like the highlight. It was a lot of fun. We ended up winning the championship, so that was great. Apart from that, I would say I was a part of TSA. TSA was a big part of it. A lot of my friends still keep in contact with them to this day. TSA, but away from that, I think anyone who went to PET knows about just walking around through what was it called? The Crossroads? The Crossroads,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So just
Yeah,
hanging out there. I would say those are a
yeah,
lot of memories made there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What position did you play?
I was a striker. So
Okay,
yeah,
yeah, big
leading
goal
goal scorer,
scorer.
not
Yeah,
to gloat or anything, but
yeah. A little bit off topic, but let's hear your debate. Messi or Ronaldo?
Oof. Okay, man, if you're asking like 7-year-old Vakash,
Yeah,
Ronaldo, but if you're asking rational, factually, the statistics, it's Messi.
yeah. Who would you rather like model your game after, like right now?
Oh, Messi,
Yeah,
Lionel Messi. I'm
Messi.
left-footed. I mean,
Yeah,
if I could walk around players the way he could, God, yeah, just give me that and I'll be happy.
yeah. I'm sure they're both great players to model your game after. So you mentioned TSA. You mentioned just like the small moments in the crossroads that I guess we kind of take for granted. Also, I believe your year was the prom where the Raptors won the championship during prom, right?
Yeah.
I,
So I almost forgot about
yeah.
that. Yeah, that was insane because like you're already
Mhm.
on the high from like prom, and
Mhm.
then I remember we all went to a restaurant right after. We left prom early.
Yeah.
We were like, screw this. We're gonna go watch the game, and we caught the end of the game, and then yeah, it was amazing. Honestly, couldn't
Mhm.
have made it a
Right.
better night. Yeah,
Mhm. I think every 2019 grad I've had on here so far has mentioned that exact moment.
I failed
So
too.
yeah, more on like the academic side, I guess. What were some like standout classes or teachers that you had?
Oh, teachers. Okay, Mr. Campoli. He was my grade 11 English. I'd say Mr. Campoli. Mr. Raja, GOAT, of course, Mr. Raja. Um, Mr. Logan, he was a grade 12 law, I believe. Mr. Logan was great. I'm not sure if he's there anymore. Um, who else? Oh, Mr. Scapinello. I mean, come on, Mr. Scaps was sick. And then Mr. Pretty. Mr. Pretty was like, you need a role model, you need someone to go to, you need someone to talk to. Mr. Pretty was there. Like, even to this day, I'm pretty sure people can go and talk to him on, if you have him on like socials. His messages are open. So Mr. Pretty, Miss Shin was
Mhm.
amazing. She got me into the gym, which was much needed. Um, yeah, I'm definitely missing others, but off the top of my head, those were just a few.
Mhm. Those are typically our commonly named fan favorites, I would call them on this podcast for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So looking ahead, a big decision that a lot of pet kids face is what do I do after I move on from pet, right? And you decided to go to Western to study business here. What were some decisions you made that kind of led you, what led you to study that?
I think when you're in high school, you're expected to figure it all out or just have it all figured out. And I was certainly one of those kids that didn't prioritize, planning ahead and figuring out what I wanted to do in university. And so I was kind of coaxed into going to Western and doing business because I actually wanted to do kinesiology. And I have a lot of older family, like cousins, friends, and you naturally turn to them for advice because they've already gone through what you're going through now. And I had a lot of people tell me, if you go into kin, what are you going to do afterwards? I already didn't like school. So If you go into kin, you're gonna have to do more school afterwards. And so I was like, oh yeah, you know what? That's not, no, I don't want to do that. And so I got talked out of doing it, and I was thankful. And so naturally, when you don't know what you want to do, I think business is the route for a lot of kids. And so that's why business gets a bad rap. So I went into business, but it certainly wasn't what I wanted to do. And I learned that so fast within my first semester. It was, yeah, it was a nightmare.
Yeah, how did you kind of know that kinesiology was like really, really something that you wanted to do?
So I took there's a grade 12 kinesiology, I think, course at PET. And so I took that with Nick actually, who's on the podcast before, and we loved it. And that was kind of where we fell in love with like the body, the human body movement and all of that. And so naturally, I didn't like school, but I found a course I liked. And so I was like, okay, well, that's where I should go. But then you look further ahead, you talk to people and they're like, employment wise, it doesn't make sense. So that's why I knew kin was the route, but I also like played sports my whole life. Um, like I was always active, and I think a lot of people who are active who play sports, go into the kinesiology route. So yeah, it was kind of a natural decision for me. I just got kind of talked out of it, and I wish I
Mhm.
didn't, but obviously hindsight's 2020. So
Right. I think it's always a battle of like the heart, like what you actually feel passionate about versus like the brain. It's telling you, this makes like financial sense. I can find a job after. So I think it's always something like that. And I think that especially at PET, there's a lot of pressure to kind of balance those two things.
oh boy, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
like you're comparing yourself to everyone, right? So like my gut was telling me do kin, but I wasn't listening to my gut at that point in my life. And if I could talk to 18-year-old, 17-year-old Vekaash now, I would have told him like just do what feels right. And I guess if going towards like talking to any of the high school students who might be watching this, like just do what you want to do, I think is the big thing. It can be it could be anything. And if someone's saying, "Oh, how are you gonna make money from this?" If you love it enough, I'm sure somehow you're gonna figure it out. You have to,
Mhm. Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's great advice, and yeah, that's really why I started this page. I feel like is I think that's a really hard decision that a lot of 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds have to make, and yeah, I always typically ask piece of advice, and I think that's a great piece of advice. And I kind of wanted to contrast Western and York, like what was the like transition like? Okay.
Western, obviously, like during my first year, there wasn't COVID, and then it got cut short. Like we just got March. March to April was cut off, obviously, because of um, the plague. But after that, I did 1 year undeclared at Western because I knew I wanted to transition into kin. And then in my third year, I transferred into York's kin program. Um, very different like environments because one's a commuter school, one's obviously you're living there. So like the social, I got lucky because Nick, who's on the podcast before, his friends became my friends. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had any friends at York. So it was okay for me. But I talked to a lot of students at York who didn't have the same friends that I kind of just naturally had back at Western because you're living with everyone. But apart from that, academically, even just like sports and stuff, you'll find your group once you enter university. You'll naturally gravitate towards the people who share the same values and interests as you. And if you don't, I'm sure if you look hard enough, you will. Like there's always someone out there who's looking for a friend too. Yeah.
Mhm. So obviously I'm pro Western. Did you ever consider staying at Western for your kinesiology degree?
Yeah, like looking back, I don't regret going to York. Um, Big reason why I wanted to go back to York was so I can stay at home and save money. In my first year, I hit this huge like investment in stock, like like trading stocks and stuff. And so I was like big on like, oh, I need to save my money for the future. Looking back, I wish I stayed at Western. Like the experience is invaluable. So you think about the money and you're like, oh, like it's so expensive. But I actually do wish I stayed at Western. And
Mhm.
plus Western's kin program is just as good as York's. York's is really good, and I'm
Mhm.
thankful I went there. But yeah, I if you're thinking about doing kin, I
Yeah.
mean, either one is a good option.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like the big criticism about Western is just living in London. But if you stay within the bubble of like Western
Yeah.
University, I feel like it's okay.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
Western. I mean, London's not beautiful. I'm not gonna say
Yeah.
sit here and like London, England's great. It's really
Mhm.
nice, really expensive.
Mhm.
But London, Ontario, like I mean, as soon as you step out of like the campus, like yeah, it's a little bit sketchy. But so is
Yeah. So
York.
you. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
York is York is sketchy
Mhm.
too. So I mean, like, pick your sketch. I don't know which one you want, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned London, England, which is where you are now, studying physiotherapy, and you mentioned before the idea of continuing school, even though you said you didn't necessarily want to. Like how like at what point did you really commit to doing further education after your undergrad?
Late. It was late. I would say like third year, maybe even halfway through third year, because I didn't think I was academically strong enough to get into physio school. And so I kind of put it aside because I was just like, oh, I don't think I can do it. Like, it's not worth it. And it was actually a conversation with my mom. My mom's like, just try. And then if you try and don't get in, you can live with that. But if you don't try and you wonder later, like, what if, like, you'll kick yourself for that. And so luckily, she's the reason why I even applied. And I took my studying more seriously because I don't like school. Like, I don't like formal education. It's not for me, and I don't think it is for everyone. But I guess when you set a goal like physio, like, you have something to chase at that point. You have something to work towards. And that helped me because I think a lot of things, a lot of students, especially in high school, you don't know what your studies is going to take you to until really you graduate. And then I don't know, you just figure it out almost, right? So I think the idea of having like an end goal to work towards helped a lot. And so I think like halfway through third year, I was like, okay, like my grades need to be really good. And so like I guess I figured it out luckily. And yeah, now I'm here. Yeah.
Mhm. So what I gathered from that is that moms are always right.
Moms are always right. Annoyingly, yes. They're annoyingly always right. Listen to your mother. As much as she might annoy you, your mother knows so much more than you do. So
Yeah, that I'm sure that's something everyone can hopefully take away from this.
yeah.
But you mentioned so you're studying physiotherapy in London. I guess my two questions are why physio and why London.
Okay, so I'll start with the London part. So I applied to the schools in Ontario and I got onto McMaster's wait list. And so I was hoping that I was like, okay, like I got a good shot at getting in. And then I didn't get into McMaster's wait list. So I had two options. It was either retake some of the courses that maybe brought my GPA down to boost it and then try again, which would take a year at least. But then I also thought like if I don't get in after that year, then not only have I wasted that 1 year trying to improve my marks, I've also wasted the next year having to re-improve my marks even more. And then I was like, you know what? If I apply to London right away, I can just go and do it. It might be more expensive, but I don't know, timelines were important to me. So that's why London. London was because I initially didn't get in. I want like that's really what it is. Um, and then physiotherapy because I have been injured numerous times playing soccer growing up, and I've been in the physio clinic. I was familiar with what they do. I also really wanted a job where I help people, you know? I think that's fulfilling. Yeah, I find fulfillment from helping other people. And I'm also a very social person. I love talking to people, meeting new people, and just from my short amount of time within a clinic, like you meet people from all walks of life. And yeah, it's nice knowing that you can get paid to help people, like genuinely make a difference in someone's life. You don't go to work dreading it. You go to work like, looking forward to that. And I think that was something important to me. And yeah, it just naturally aligned with, I guess, my values and what I was interested in.
So I saw that you were helping out with Watford.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
how was that experience?
It was okay. So I grew up watching like Premier League football, right? So Watford is a huge club in England, and I had reached out to dozens of people on LinkedIn just trying to get my foot in the door into like football, into physiotherapy and football. And luckily, someone gave me a chance just to come in and shadow, and it was awesome. Like their facilities are incredible. It's beyond what you'd expect from, obviously Watford's a big club, but like they're not Chelsea, they're not United, So, but you go there and they got, an insane training facility and like I was helping with the academy and it's like the amount of staff and like just the facilities for the academy themselves. Like the kids are 9 years old and they got literally everything. And it was a really cool experience, but also on the physio side, it was eye-opening to see how they treat. And now I can take that forward towards, my future experiences. So it's really valuable. Yeah.
So you mentioned before, dealing with injuries, as a player and injuries are something that takes people away from doing what they love, which was soccer for you, right? And a
Yeah.
big part of this page is about resilience and perseverance. What has like dealing with those injuries kind of taught you about like life in general, dealing with setbacks?
I think it's just about you got to get up. You got to figure a way to like keep moving forward. I mean, it's a cliche thing. Um, I think everything happens for a reason. So even if, say, I want to be a professional footballer and I tore my ACL and I'm out for 12 months, like I think there's a hidden lesson in that. There's a reason why that's happened, and it's about finding the value or you know, finding value in what's happened, not just thinking about, oh crap, like this has happened to me. So for me with my injuries, it was like every I got injured during the summer usually, which is the worst time in terms of like you want to get scouted. It's like during that time. So you can't do anything about it now that it's done. It's how can you move forward with that? So I think that's an important thing. Just keep your head up, keep moving forward.
I think that's a great piece of advice, in sports, in life, in school, at work, with everything, right? And you mentioned before, going to London. You could have realistically gone anywhere in the world, right? What was your like first exposure to this school specifically that really like pulled you in?
So I have a very funny story. In March of 2022, yeah, March of 2020, no, March of 2023, my uncle who lives in London and came to Canada, and I was telling him my plans to apply to physiotherapy and how competitive it is. And he's like, "Oh, like why don't you come to London?" And I was like, "Nah, like there's no way, like it's too expensive. Like I'm gonna get in here, it'll be fine. Like I'm working hard, I'll get in here." Didn't get in here. I had a breakdown. I cried. I was crying that I didn't get in here, and I was panicking. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. Like backup plan was to go into trades. I don't know, become a plumber or something. Obviously I don't want to do that. So uh it was actually funny because the next day, so I got denied. I got my my emails from Western and also McMaster and stuff saying I didn't get in. And then the next day I flew to Dominican with my family. And so I'm in Dominican and I'm like very sad, very down. And then it was like 4 or 5 in the morning. I can't sleep. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Like I'm just gonna search up these universities and I applied to like a few. I applied to Brunel, which I'm at now. I applied to Liverpool. I applied to Manchester. And then afterwards, I found out that Brunel was like 20 minutes away from my aunt and uncle's house here. So financially, it made complete sense now. The big reason why I didn't want to come to London was the finances. It's really expensive. Like rent here is borderline. It's borderline extortion, but luckily I didn't have to deal with that, so I came here. Yeah, that was a big reason why I came here versus like Liverpool or Manchester. It was just a lot more affordable, but also like I knew it would open up doors for me if I wanted to work within football. There's nowhere else. There's nowhere better in the world to work as a physio than in London, really, but in England. So yeah, those were a few reasons, but definitely like the failure of not getting into physio school there. Yeah, that was a big reason why I came here. I just couldn't take no for an answer.
Yeah, I guess that shows, the importance of, having networks and having these connections. You never know who's going to like help you, find your way. But also, there's more than one way to get to the end destination that you want. And like you said, if it's that important to you, you'll find a way to do it, even if, it's after a bunch of no's,
Yeah.
after a few rejections. Super important. So when you got to London, was there like a culture shock for you at first?
Yeah, like a big one is like crossing the road. Um, so they drive on the opposite side of
Yeah.
the road. So like I don't check, when you cross the road, you don't really need to check. Like you check, you know which way to look, basically, right? In Toronto. And then I got to London and I'm like, I need to check like 3 or 4 times because I don't know which way the car's coming from. But apart from that, football is big here, so I feel like I fit in quite well. The accent, you can't escape it, it's everywhere, but also their lingo. They say so many different words. Like instead of saying like when you meet someone like oh, what's up? Like they'll say you all right, or like obviously with an accent, like you all right. Uh, so I picked that up because it's really easy, honestly. It just comes off the tongue. But like yeah, definitely a culture shock coming here compared to Toronto. It's a big difference with it being a walkable city too. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, you're right, mate.
Yeah, you're all right, mate. Yeah, exactly. There you go. You got it.
Or they call like slacks or trousers. They never say pants.
No, they don't. So once I said it was hot in class, and obviously we wear shorts. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna take my pants off, and then someone like the class started laughing, and like the teacher started laughing because like obviously that means like underwear here. So yeah, don't say
Oh, okay, I
that.
didn't know that. Oh,
Yeah, that's what
oh,
pants
okay.
are.
Oh, yeah, but okay. So they would have thought they like what you should have said was, "I'm going to take my trousers or
Yeah,
slacks
I was like, yeah,
or
it's getting
something."
hot in here. I'm gonna take my trousers off. I should have said that, but even that sounds a bit weird. It's so formal here. It's so formal. Like, yeah,
Yeah, and then you were talking about the tube,
yeah, the
which
tubes. Yeah, it's like when I got here, I was refusing to call it the tube because like I don't know. It's just it's a train. Like, why are we giving it another name? I don't know why they have to overcomplicate things here.
right, but you can get anywhere, within the city, outside the city. You can, take a train to Paris even,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is pretty
no,
great.
yeah, you can get like even I can't complain. Like the transportation system is amazing. I wish Toronto had it because like if I live in Whitby in Toronto, like I can't get anywhere. I can't get anywhere close to the city on a bus or a train there. But here you can be 45 minutes out, and then you can get into the city quite easily. But it's a lot denser of a city than Toronto. Like there's just so much in such a small space, whereas we have like acres and acres of land between anything. So yeah, it's a big difference.
Mhm. You enjoying the food there, the fish and chips?
Food sucks here, man. Like everything. Like even the McDonald's. I'm a big sucker for McDonald's. It's not even the same here. It's probably
Oh,
healthier.
really?
I think that's why it's not as good.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're planning to graduate this fall, right? Um,
Yes.
do you have any plans afterwards? You looking at coming back to Canada, staying in London, dealing with football? What are the plans for you?
It's up in the air right now. I would love to be within football, but I think I actually got a chance to talk to the first team physiotherapist at Arsenal, and he gave me some insight into what it's like, the lifestyle. It's very full on. They compensate you well, but they expect you to work, which is, of course, that makes sense. But I want to have a life outside of my work. So in terms of lifestyle, I actually don't think football is for me, even though I love the game. So. I think yeah, it's still in the air. We'll see. I think I have time to decide. So yeah, not 100% sure just yet.
Right. It's very much like business minded, right? Like if their star player gets injured and you don't have them back within like 2 weeks, then they're gonna lose like all their games. They're gonna lose a ton of revenue,
Yeah,
right?
because
Things like
there's
that, right?
millions of pounds put into these players, right? So you're not just expected to get them back. You're expected to get them back as fast as you can, and without them getting re-injured. So yeah, it's a big pressure if you're working within football as a anything within the medical team within football. A lot of pressure on you. So
Mhm. Right. And I guess, you said you want to go into it, to really help people and, work with them, right? But I guess it kind of almost takes the human aspect out of it when you're dealing with that much money, I guess.
yeah, exactly. Like I would love to like, build relationships with patients in a way, like I think that's I'm considering going into neuro rehab, neurophysiotherapy because you do have to see patients for sometimes years. And so with doing that, you're going to build a relationship with them naturally just with the time you spend with them. And I think that's really interesting to me. That's something I'm considering. So football, although like it's very like, shiny and, like cool, yeah,
Mhm.
it's just maybe not for me lifestyle wise. So I think that's something I think everyone has to consider when you pick a field to go into. It's like, will this give
Right.
me what I actually want? Like, is time important to you or is money? Is if money is important to you, then yeah, I guess football is
Mhm.
definitely it, like physio wise.
Right. And I was having this discussion with a friend the other day, is that healthcare, for example, there's almost like an ethical dilemma in a way. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So let's say a patient comes to you and they're injured, okay? Ethically, you'd want to provide them the absolute best service possible. And if it was possible, you would get them back within one appointment, right?
Yeah, of
However,
course.
from a business perspective, that's not going to make you money because they're only coming to you once. Whereas you would want them to come back to you multiple times, right?
Yeah.
So I guess there is like a big ethical dilemma, I guess, or am I just overthinking that?
No, there is, but I think
Yeah.
when you decide to become like a physiotherapist or when you decide to go into the when you decide to become a healthcare practitioner, like you are making an oath to bringing the best care for your patients. And that doesn't mean just like, okay, I'm going to prolong my care for as long as I can. It's like, no, these people have like things to go back to, right? They have jobs to go back to. They have things that they enjoy doing that they need to get back to. So I think there's just there's no scarcity in patients. Like someone's always going to be hurt. There's always going to like unfortunately. I wish well for the sake of my profession, you need injuries, but I hope no one gets injured. But there's always going to be someone else who gets injured. And if I can provide this person with the best care and they leave within one session, I'm going to do that because now they're going to go and refer, like if they're ever going to talk to someone about physiotherapy, they'll be like, oh, wow, like, look, like I went to this guy, like, and he got me back good within one session, which usually doesn't happen. But yeah, if that can be the case, then of course that's what you should do as a someone providing healthcare. Yeah.
So you mentioned, you're very social, you're very caring about people, you want to provide high care quality, you're ethical. Are there any other like words or traits you would use that you want to like leave your legacy as? Like what do you want to be remembered for?
That's a good question. I guess I just want to be remembered as like a good person, someone who's done good in the world, someone who's kind, someone who is genuine. I think that's really all, like in terms of like personal success, like that's great for myself, but yeah, I want to be known as someone who's kind, caring, hardworking, and who did good. So hopefully I can do that through my work. Yeah.
These are all, yeah, great things we've talked about, following your heart rather than, what might necessarily make sense in a way. Following your heart, following your passion, doing what's right for you in terms of like lifestyle and, like I said, passion are super important. Looking ahead, you mentioned all these things that, you're hoping you can, be a good person, be hardworking, all these things.
Yeah.
Are there any like goals that you have, personally, whether it's volunteering, traveling, anything like that we can look forward to seeing from you?
Yeah, I mean, like I want to open up my own clinic. So hopefully, who knows if that's 10 years, like hopefully that happens. And Nathan, if you get hurt, I don't know, playing volleyball or something, you come to me, I got you, I'll hook you up.
Yeah. Yeah. I could just imagine your office with all like the signed jerseys on the wall. That'd be pretty sick. That'd be pretty cool.
That's a good idea. I might have to take that. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any, travel destinations you need to go to? Any other like personal goals on the side?
Yeah. So I'm already here in London. So I mean, like traveling here is a lot cheaper than if I was to be in like, Canada. So there's a few places I do want to go. One of them is Croatia. I've heard Croatia is beautiful in the summer. So Croatia, I've done a little bit of traveling already. Apparently Morocco, Marrakesh in Morocco is beautiful as well. And Switzerland. Oh, that's on the bucket list. Switzerland is on the bucket list. So those are just a few personal things I want to do.
And a big thing we talk about on the page is the idea of like role models, inspiration. We've talked about, Messi being, a role model on the field, your mom pointing you in the right direction, your uncle kind of helping you in the right direction. Are there any other like role models or inspiration that you have?
Genuinely, you had Nick on the podcast. It's Nick. Like Nick, hardest working, one of the kindest people I know. Like, yeah, I take after him in terms of like how hardworking I want to be. And just, yeah, overall great guy. But apart from Nick, I would put my parents up there. Sacrificed a lot to get me to where I am. So yeah, I think most people would say their parents, hopefully. And it's no different for me.
Yeah, amazing to hear. Yeah, Nick, such a hardworking guy. And I think it's really cool that, you guys grew up together at Stonebridge and talking about that whole idea of like community, going to the same school, being from Markham, I guess. So that's really cool. And so we'll wrap it up. One final question. You mentioned Nick's already been on the podcast. Are there any other guests from PET that you want to nominate?
Yeah, I could give you two very good friends of mine. Ashu Tricka and Yumin Abba. Two of the smartest people I know, and I think they would have some very interesting perspectives maybe to bring to podcast, in terms of where they've come from, what they're doing now, and just like, yeah, I can just see that being a very interesting conversation for you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. We know you're busy out in London living life, and dealing with these time zones and all those different things. So thank you for your insight about, following your passion, doing what's right for you, leaning on your family. That was a huge part of what we talked about. Do you have any, closing remarks, words of wisdom, anything like that?
Trust your gut. If there's any high school students listening here, I wish I did that. And if you don't have a gut, like just trust it a few times and then it'll slowly grow. At least that's what I think. I think like, yeah, there's no one else you want to listen to other than yourself. So trust your gut.
Okay, great to hear. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and we'll see everyone next week. Peace out.